Okay, I think we're like, come on, everybody. Like, you get into it. All right. See, Jennifer, that's good. I like the head bob. I'm not coordinated enough to do that. So that's good. Oh, Jim's got the swivel. Sweet. All right. Well, hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 8th DuPage Real Producers Jam Session, as in like the Ocho. We took 2 weeks off from doing these. We in honor of Independence Day, so we're glad to be back on the horse. People keep asking me, hey, I really enjoy these. It's like a little mini podcast because you got a West Suburbs one, you got a city one, and as long as people keep engaging with them and having fun with them, I love it because it just puts great information and different minds out in the ether, if that's a word. I think it is. My daughter is into Minecraft, so I think it's funny how like all these some of you can relate. Some of these verbiages go, but you guys know what I'm saying. So with that, we're just gonna jump right in because we haven't had one of these in about 3 weeks. I think June 22nd was the last one of these that we did, and a lot's happened in real estate. A lot is happening, and just where the trajectory of the market is headed. So we got some great minds on here, as always. I know I say that every week, just because it's true every week. And so I'm going to have the realtors very briefly introduce themselves, and have the partners introduce themselves, and then we're going to start talking shop. So, Lori, if you don't mind, kick us off.
Absolutely. Thanks, Andy, for having me on. I'm Lori Johanneson. I'm a realtor with At Properties in Naperville. I've been a realtor for nearly 20 years and a lot of experience so far in this 2021 market. Who else is a realtor with me in this room?
Jennifer, I think you were next.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jennifer Slown with RE/MAX Professional Select. I've been in real estate for the last 6 years. With my husband, Scott. He's been in for 7 years.
Paul Baker with Platinum Partner Realtors. Primary market areas Downers Grove and Lombard, where we have an office in each town. I've been doing this 14 years now.
Jim Barcelona, thanks for having me, Andy. Managing broker for At Properties of Elmhurst, St. Charles, and Naperville offices. And I've been on both the commercial and residential side of the business for the past 20 years.
3 offices, so you're not busy at all, right?
Down from 7, so I'm feeling pretty good.
Hey, you're on vacation, right? You coming to us live from Cancun. Well, hey, as we cannot obviously do what we do. We pride ourselves in being a non-pay-to-play platform for realtors. For those of you who know what Real Producers is, and we have markets in obviously DuPage, the city, Chicago proper, and the North Shore. I'm very blessed to run the platforms for DuPage in the city, but I mean, we cannot do what we do without our partners. They're the ones who fund it. They're the ones who bring ideas to the table, collaboration. In fact, it was actually a realtor's idea and one of our partners' idea to do these Facebook Live. We started doing these privately from like June, I think August or September last year. And I had a realtor approach me and say, hey, could we do these Facebook Live? And I'm like, man, I don't care. I have the time blocked anyway. He's like, because it's going to allow me to sort of leverage your platform, Andy, and what you've created because I'm going to share that feed to my clients and my sphere and people in my pipeline. And I said, we were joking around, and I said, so it's basically going to position you as more important than you really are. And he goes, exactly. So we had a good chuckle, but we try to keep these fun. We try to keep them light. These are branded as jam sessions for a reason, but I mean, I cannot do what I do without our partners. And so with that, Carol, I'm going to have you introduce yourselves. Thank you so much for your support over the last 1.5-ish. It's an honor to get to know you a little bit, and we're excited about getting the normal events rolling. So I'm going to shut up. Take it away.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. This is Carol, and I'm the White Glove Lady from White Glove Building Inspections. Got to get the glove in there. We've been doing building inspections, both residential and commercial, since 1990. So we've been around for 3 decades, a long time, but just when the industry actually started. So we've seen a lot, done a lot, and would like to be your service partner too.
Jina, that's you.
I think I'm next. Yes, absolutely. Kept you muted for background. I'm Jina Boerman with Achosa Home Warranty, and we are the one of the few home warranty companies where you can choose your own contractor. So everybody's really been enjoying that kind of change customer service for the homeowner, and it's been going really well. So I'm honored to be one of their first reps in the Chicago area, and it's been great. It's been a great almost 2 years now. So it's been going awesome. And I'm also married to Mike Boerman, who owns Boerman Moving and Storage. So we're still together. I just don't want to work with him anymore.
Okay, Kelly was on the last one, I think, that we did. Kevin, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I'm Kevin Boggs. I'm with Goosehead Insurance. I've been in the insurance industry since 2008 and with Goosehead since 2017.
Awesome. Well, hey, I mean, this is the part where I literally get out of the way. Let's face it, people aren't on here. People don't tune into these to hear me blab and drone on. Maybe they might, I'll throw a quick joke in there every now and then, but I mean, let's get really to the crux of this. So Paul, you had a good sort of talking point when we were pregame. And so why don't you go ahead and kick us off, and the conversation can ebb and flow from there.
Well, what I had brought up in our pregame session was not to get all Star Wars on everybody, but I feel a shift in the force here a little bit. What I mean by that is, for probably 12 to 18 months, it got to the point where very rarely deals were falling apart for any reason, because once people got a house, they held on to it like a bat out of hell, to put it frankly. And I also had not received any lowball offers, and very few home inspection issues. There were issues, but the buyer wouldn't bring them up. In the last 20 to 30 days, a couple deals blew up, couple lowball offers, and home inspection stuff once again. I don't know if it's a seasonal shift or if this is something bigger happening, because now a lot of buyers have hit the sidelines. I've had several go back home to live with mom and dad a little bit longer. I've had others renew their rentals and say they're going to try it again in the spring. And I always say, if it's happening in my own little world, it's happening in others. So I just haven't really heard that much, because still at the same time, very busy. And also, if it's a good listing, good price, good location, we're still getting multiple offers with little to no issues. But like I said, things have started to change a little. And the first time I got the lowball offer, I was like, whoa, I haven't seen one of these in a long time. What's going on here? And it was a house that did not get multiple offers on the first weekend, like a lot of them do. The offer came in on a Monday low. So anyone else seeing that?
I've seen it as well, Paul. I think people are realizing there are more options. There's going to be more homes that are going to come on the market. And I think just in general, July is a much slower time for the market, except for last year, because that was when people finally were feeling more comfortable to let people in their house, and other people were feeling comfortable to go in other people's houses. I do feel that June, it started to go slow because so many more people were vaccinated and feeling comfortable to go on vacations and visit family they hadn't seen in over a year. So when I knew that more people are going to be vaccinated, I actually was thinking it was already going to start to happen, that there was going to be a little bit of a slow in the market. But I am seeing already, which is a little bit different than normal, I am starting to pick up more listing inventory of the people who are excited about getting their home sold and moving on to the next chapter. I do think people have been freaking out when they are overpaying for a home on inspection issues. They're not properly given the right expectations of what to expect when there is a home inspection. And if agents are setting the proper expectation with their buyers of, these are things that normally come up, loose toilet, GFIs, there may be mold in the attic, they aren't deal killers, they can be fixed. But when they're overpaying and these things come up, they freak out, have buyer's remorse, and back out. So I think if all agents can properly have really good conversations with their buyers going into the whole process, I think deals will stay together better. And I'm really hoping that the multiple offer situation will still continue for our wonderful sellers, but not to be as brutal as they were in the first half of the year. So there will be more buyers who will decide to stick through the process, or we're going to repeat this exact same market again next year. And that's my own personal take on the current situation.
Yeah, so I'll kind of look at it from a fact data standpoint. I look at a lot of markets, and so I've seen interesting trends. I think that the immediate answer to your question, there was a lot of points there, Paul, but I think the first thing I would say is that when you look at the state that we're in right now, right, you've got school years that for the most part ran late, and they're starting very early this year. So summer is really, really short. And so people have decided the world is kind of open again, and they're just out of Chicago. They're going to vacation, they're going to be with their family, they're going to do what they want to do. So we're seeing maybe an even more exaggerated slowdown than normal, I think, right now for those reasons. The other thing that you have to consider is that a lot of people now, with the world open again, have different demands on their time, resources, and money, right? And so all of a sudden home, which was the only thing people talked about for 16, 18 months, now there's other demands. People are traveling to their kids' sports again, that creates time and money expenditure. So I think there's some alternatives that we're going to be faced with. But then when you look at the pure data, what I find really interesting is that supply and demand, right? So for the longest time, we saw under contracts going like this and supply of inventory going like that, which created all of these multiple offers. In the last couple of months, we've actually seen, while the buyers are still out there, we've actually seen less under contract activity, and now more inventory is slowly coming into the market. So you have still plenty of buyers, but a slightly less amount of buyers chasing slightly more inventory. So what has become really, really critical is that the buyers are there and the market is strong. You just have to price appropriately. So you need the price and the product positioned properly in the marketplace, or else I think it's a no-go, because buyers have wisened up. If you're on the coast, California, Arizona, that's not the case. But here in the Midwest, we're a little more conservative and steady. And so the irrational exuberance maybe has slowed to some extent. But I actually anticipate a very strong fall market still, with interest rates low and buyer demand still there and more inventory to look at. I just think it has to be priced appropriately, and you're fine.
Yeah, to Lori's point, I think talking with expectation of buyers, to me, seems slightly easier than talking to sellers. Explaining to a seller at a listing presentation now that there might be a little shift in the market, and not to expect what happened to their neighbor. They may not sell their house for $70,000 over list with 18 offers, is going to be hard. That's going to be hard to do. And I think we all need to figure out the old saying, do you want me to tell you what you want to hear, or tell you what I'm feeling as a professional that's doing this every day? Because I'm going to have to prepare myself to lose some listings in the next couple months, because someone's going to think their house is worth $350, and I'm going to go in saying I think we should do $325, and they're going to list with someone else that perhaps doesn't do it as often and maybe doesn't feel the same thing I'm feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I think to Lori's point as well, I mean, just setting the expectations is so big, and like creating that roadmap for them, like, identify why their house isn't going to sell for $350, and point that out. I mean, the market that we just saw was crazy. We deal with maybe 75 to 100 home buyers every month, and what we do, and we've seen crazy things happen, as you guys have already mentioned. I don't need to keep reiterating them, but I think the good realtors are setting the right expectations, and the clients working with those people are getting out of it what they have. So I think that's just I think it's the best way to overcome that.
Well, and to Jim's point of showing the data, when you show your clients, your house is only worth as much as what you're in competition with. So I can push your home as high as I can, but if there's a house that's nicer, I can't be what the house that sold across the street 3 months ago, because somebody's going to pick you and now you're going to be sitting on the market longer. And right now, when a house sits on the market for 2 weekends, everybody thinks something's wrong with it. So they wait for something else to come on, which nothing's even wrong with the house. It was fine. We priced it a little aggressive. Or, you know, even with just the 4th of July that we just had the week before, the week after definitely was a little bit slower. I had multiple offers happen on one of my listings and I had hardly any showings on it the week before. So it's showing the data to the clients will help continue to win listings when you properly set the expectation of what your home is worth is what you're in competition with. So
Lori, can you say that again? You said that you listed something, barely had any showings, kept it at the price you were at, and then the next weekend you got multiple offers. Is that what I heard?
that is correct.
That's good to hear.
And then another one I dropped. So I had 2 listings and another one I dropped the price by $5,000, ended up getting multiple offers and still going above the original price I had, just making the slight change. Pushed it out there and it was able to then sell for even more than what they're expecting. So another
interesting.
Great.
Because I would start to panic if I didn't have 10 showings set up in the first hour.
I was going to say, isn't it crazy how you guys have how real estate agents have changed in that? I mean, that used to be like the norm, right? Like, you know, and now, like Lori said, 2 weeks on the market and, you know, people start to think something's wrong with it. It's crazy how quickly that changed. I mean, that wasn't 24 months ago, but it's like, now it's just a new standard, which will change again, right? But
yeah.
Well, to Lori's point, I think it's so vital that professionals like us are the ones that are getting these listings, because it's so key pricing a home right from the start. That $5,000 made all the difference for Lori in that case, and just dropping that price, you know, setting the bait for the right fish, if you will, you know, that you're going to attract the most fish and get the most offers, but you know, you put the wrong bait a little bit too high, and then, you know, you didn't get any offers, but did that a little adjustment and it came out on top.
Yeah, and the flip side to look at the market is like where Paul, you make a great point. You know, so many people go out on listings, to use your example, and you take a position at 325, and someone that may not be feeling or as involved in the market goes at 350, you don't get the opportunity. I feel like you can really communicate today to a client that the market, if I'm wrong, like if you're wrong at 325, Paul, the market's going to bid it up. You can't underprice a property at this moment in time, you know? So if someone sees a value at 325, somebody else is going to see it and they're going to bid it up. So they can kind of rest assured, you know, that you're going to drive the value by starting at the right, you know, at the right pricing. So I get it though, you know, because people will tell you what you want to hear. But I think that if you can convey that to a seller and convince them that that's true and share a story, they'll probably stick with you.
100%.
I've noticed a little bit of change. You know, Paul asked, has anybody seen change? What I've noticed too is that we had as is, and people call me all the time for the as is questions, right? You know, if we get this as is the HVAC going to be covered? And so we get those questions all the time. And it kind of like fast rewind 3 weeks ago, even maybe a little bit 4 or 5 weeks ago, even 3, the questions would be, we're going to do as is this covered? If I would say no, because it's a pre-existing, they would say, we don't care, we're still moving forward. In the last couple of weeks, now they're calling me back and saying, okay, like, you know, it's a different story. Like they were taking as is and they were just taking it and not even really taking much into consideration on the home inspection. But in the last couple of weeks, I've noticed a real big change in that. A couple of people calling me and then they lost a deal over a home inspection, which that really hasn't happened in a really long time, right? So I think that's something that I've noticed too.
So things are not covered if the people buy it as is?
No, it is covered if they buy it as is, but if they buy it as is and they have the home inspection, so they do as most of these times when people are doing the as is, they're still getting the home inspection. in my opinion, and I don't know what you guys think, so I better be careful what I say here, but in my opinion, saying I'll take it as is just kind of like smoke and mirrors, right? Because then when something comes back on the, well, it hadn't been previously because they would still usually take it, but it's already starting to turn where they said they would take it as is, something, they still get the home inspection, something comes back and it's like, oh, I know I said I would take it as is, but I really didn't mean it, just kidding, because your HVAC is 23 years old and now something's wrong with it. So we do cover as is properties, but if they have that home inspection and it says that it's, damaged, needs to be repaired, not properly working, then it would not be covered because that would be a pre-existing. But
Gotcha.
if they have that home inspection and all is good, even though they said as is, we're totally good. So it's just if they have that home inspection, it says it's not properly working. And I'm not sure, but I think that's most of us, that we don't cover pre-existing conditions. So if the home inspection states that it wasn't working, so.
Good to know. Yeah, I have a question for you guys, just out of my own personal curiosity. Where do we see, these housing value, market value of the homes going with the slow right now? Obviously, Jim had mentioned, maybe feeling a strong fall. I mean, do we see some of these prices coming back down a little bit outside of the overbidding, just the natural market value, or do we think they'll keep increasing or staying the same?
Well, I'll go first on that. Every time I'm doing a market analysis for any town, I always, out of curiosity on InfoSparks, I will look at the average price of the homes in that town, average square footage, and then I'll extend it all months back, which goes to about August of 2008. Almost every town is about where it was or higher, or a little bit higher than 2008, but there are still some towns that are still below 2008. So when people say, well, wow, prices have really skyrocketed, they skyrocketed from 2012, 2014. But to tell someone who bought a house in 2008 for $550 that it's worth $575 now, that's not skyrocketing in their head. In fact, they feel like they lost money. So I'm not sure that prices are quite as inflated as people think they are, and that the media would tell you they are. I think they might be where they're supposed to be, and I'm hoping I'm right, and I'm hoping that prices don't fall. They might steady out, they might seasonally fall a little, but I'm not sure. I think Jim said something about it being a strong fall. Lori may have said it too. I completely agree with that. I think after Labor Day, you're going to see prices, if not just maintaining steady, maybe even an uptick a little bit.
I think if a house is properly prepared and marketed, it'll still get a strong price. I think it's when people think that they can hire somebody who's not quite the professional that we are and don't have professional pictures, don't tell a client how to properly prepare their home, and it's not getting as much exposure, that could then limit the amount of increase that we'll see. I think and I hope that values will continue to go up a little, but I don't think they're going to go up much more than where they're at. And I think, but it's also at different price points. Homes under 500 is much different than a home between 5 and 7. And I'm seeing even the $1 million homes, they're going a lot quicker because people typically in $1 million price point will decide, well, if I'm going to pay this, I'd rather build. With construction costs being up, we've now seen a lot more $1 million houses selling, and even for a really good price, because they would have been spending even more and waiting a really long time to make it happen. So I think it all depends on the price point, on where we're going to see it continue to go up, where we're going to see it kind of level out a little. But I don't foresee everybody's just like, when is it going to tank? Because that's when I'm going to buy my house. I don't think we're going to tank.
No, and I think that new construction will kind of level things out. I just took a listing in Plainfield yesterday for $225, and I saw similar homes being built down the street on Route 59, townhomes, and they were 280s, starting in the 280s, and they acted like it was a big deal. I could see someone being like, I can get a nice one built in 2008 for 225, and there's some nice updates and some nice personal things. It doesn't look like a builder's grade anymore. For 225, why would I spend 280? So I do think that that's true, because let's face it, 40,000 of that 280 is just because lumber has gone up so much in the past 8 months. You're paying for lumber. You're not paying for nice light fixtures and nice plumbing fixtures. No one's going to walk into a house and say, hey, look at the lumber behind my drywall. It's really nice.
Not the first thing you look at when you go into a house.
No.
I go knock on the walls. This is solid.
I think that's a great point. I think once lumber prices, well, and that's the thing, I don't know that lumber prices are going to level off. I think once lumber production catches up, I think there's still going to always be a little bit of a premium on that, because there's all these builds in the pipeline right now with these builders. They've got these signed contracts. So I don't know that the lumber prices are going to taper off. And so I think that's going to push more people to do resale homes versus new construction. So I'm with Lori on this one. I don't think they're going to tank. I don't think they're going to skyrocket. I think they're going to kind of continue at this small increase that we're seeing right now in this time of the market.
Maybe there'll be a new trend with unexposed exposed drywall. Like they'll just leave the lumber showing, you know.
I wish. That make inspections really easy.
That was another point I brought up with these home inspections now becoming an issue. Carol, does your company get phone calls where buyers or sellers want more information now about what kind of inspection issues might come up? Or because I would imagine for a while there, you guys were doing the inspections, but you weren't having to deal with all the BS that comes after those reports are sent out to everyone.
Well, I can't really answer that, because I think we do an inspection that's so high grade because we communicate at the inspection. They know what they're getting at that moment. I rarely get calls back afterwards, like confirming and asking, well, what about this or what about that? Because between communicating and a report, it really comes off pretty solid for most buyers.
Good. Do you include videos and pictures? Obviously you do pictures, but videos and stuff, because I can't stand when a home inspector speculates on something just because they can't figure it out, and they don't think of asking, just calling the listing agent so they could ask the homeowner, what does that switch do? Because the inspector says it's dead, and then the homeowner is like, no, that switch is for a fan in the attic. He just couldn't hear it.
Yeah. Well, if we don't understand something that's going on, we say so and just figure it out either by researching it or calling or something.
Yeah, I think inspectors should not think they're bothering the listing agent, because we can get the seller on the phone right away if there's something they can't figure out, rather than just saying, oh, it's a dead switch and a professional certified NASA scientist needs to come evaluate it. Slight exaggeration there.
Yeah. What earlier when we were talking about the as-is situation, I found that, oh my gosh, what is this as-is stuff? It used to be defined as, oh my God, this house is a toilet.
Yeah.
And, it needs everything, and I'm not going to sell it without saying that it's as-is. And now we've got a new cliche that we're using it a new way, and it's quite interesting. So I, as a home inspection company, I sit on the other side of the fence here and still have to stay straight and narrow on that fence. So most of the time, I don't really know what's happening with the home unless somebody's telling me or they answer a survey. Did you buy the house? Did you make corrections, etc.? So unless something peaks up, I have no clue sometimes. So I've just been running, just like you guys, for the last year and a half. So
I find it interesting, back to what Lori said and what Carol said, it's kind of all like the same thing. It's like communication, right? Your communication with the homeowner, white gloves communication as they do the inspection, our communication on the home warranty, being transparent, telling them what's covered, what's not covered, not being vague so that they think things are covered that aren't, or that they, it's all about being transparent and being honest with the homeowner. If you do it in the right way, they're going to appreciate it in the end, the honesty. And, and what I think will happen is those of us that do that will end up on top, and the ones that don't do that, they'll be fired, right? I mean, because people want to know what's going on and they want transparency and to work with somebody that isn't going to sugarcoat it or tell them what they want to hear.
What is some things everybody has done that they didn't do before the pandemic, but now they're going to keep doing it, even though the pandemic's for the most part over here in our country. One of the things I did as an example, it's kind of, it doesn't, I don't know, the sellers thought it was really cool, and even other agents thought it was cool, is I started putting QR code on a big 2x2 sidewalk sticker with a picture of the house. This was when COVID just started, didn't know where it was going, but I'm like, people might be afraid to touch the brochure box and stuff like that. So we started doing those sidewalk stickers. You've probably seen them when you're in the city, advertising a new Broadway show or something, because people are always looking down. So we started doing that. I'm going to keep doing it. It doesn't work around here like October through April. But in the nicer months, it works. And I don't know that it helps sell the house at all, but the seller thinks it's pretty impressive and the neighbors think it's pretty cool. So I'll keep doing that. Is there anyone else that's doing something a little different? And we'll continue.
I think the importance of pre-marketing and not selling a home in the private listing network. I think in years past, when you put a home in a private listing network and you would get an offer, you generally were going to get more in the private than you would if you actually went live, which now it's just the opposite. If I have, my rule of thumb is if I have 3 agents, knocking down my door saying, hey, I need to get into this house, this is perfect for my client, I know once I go live, I'm going to get multiple people who are also equally as interested as the 3 I had going forward. So just having everything ready a week before to have the pictures and everything out there. And then I always have a standard, I list my homes on Thursday so I can get maximum exposure on the weekends. I wish everybody listed on Thursday. So everybody, we'd all kind of stick to one app or whatever, because wherever you look, all the new houses came on that day. But it also helps because if I'm not selling in the private listing network, I have multiple offers that I can, if somebody who decided to buy it as is decides to flake during the attorney review period, I have a backup offer. I don't have to all of a sudden say, I'm going to give you a $5,000 or $6,000 credit because the AC is old, even though you knew it was old because you asked the question prior to writing the contract. I can then bump it to the next buyer who was waiting in line and hoping to get the home. And so I think just giving the sellers that opportunity to see, hey, we're already getting interest at this price, or hey, I got no calls. And if I'm getting no calls in the private listing network, that means we're probably priced a little aggressive because everybody is now, more people have exposure to that database than ever before. So I'll continue to do that.
Lori, I think the Thursday piece is like something that was never a thing, but then, with the way the market is now, listing on a Thursday and then having that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you've got the one weekday in case somebody works weekends, the Friday they can come see it. And then, the most other people can come on a Saturday or Sunday, you get all your showings in, and then, you wrap it up by Sunday evening. So that's something else that I also saw as a change and will probably continue to do.
The only thing I did differently, just because it fell that way, because I do the same thing. I try to always list on Thursdays, Friday, the latest. Is the first time I listed one of my own flips. It just, it's one of those things where once it's ready, you just want to get on the market because you've owned it for almost a year. So it happened to be ready on a Tuesday morning. So we listed it on Tuesday morning and we just blew up. And that was because so many people made offers that were just heartbroken on Monday morning. And then nothing was on the market. And then, oh my God, this one came on. It was the most insane listing I had of the season. It was just crazy. The amount of offers and everything and what we sold it for and what it appraised for, the whole thing was like sums up this whole past market.
Yeah, I think again, it's all price point driven, and different price points seek different demands of what's out there. And if we're doing some good pre-marketing, we're going to see what kind of interest we're getting out there, which I think is just a nice nice try. Like, especially if you are afraid you're gonna lose the listing because somebody else is gonna say it's worth more, say, hey, let's just try it out in the private listing network and see if that's what we're going to get. Because that'll be a really good gauge. And maybe we'll be able to even list higher. We don't know until we're actually gonna list and know what competition we're in at that time. So just being confident enough with your ability to price will help get the seller exactly what they want, be able to get the buyer the different options, and sticking with, if there's backups and people were saying, hey, we're going to do it as is too, you go to them and say, hey, here's a couple things that just came up. You want to do a home inspection, or you want to move forward with the offer because this home could be yours and the other people will get bumped out because they're not holding true to the contract they originally signed. So again, everything is price point driven right now and demand driven, and being able to show really good marketing and everything else out there to keep our, us stand out over people who just want to sell it on their own.
Have you
I learned
guys,
to be a really good support system for the agents when you guys need to vent, especially the buyer's agents.
have you guys felt about discount brokerage this year for sale by owner type of activity? How much have you run into that?
I think we're seeing a lot more of it. There's been a lot more of it, or I'll go on a listing appointment. They'll appreciate everything I said. And they're like, all right, we're going to try it for a weekend. I'm like, all right, how'd it go? Well, we had a couple come through a couple different times. Okay, great. So I follow up with them again. So, a couple of them have recently signed listing paperwork because they try and they're just sick of getting all the realtor calls, because us realtors are really good about collecting their contact information. But I'm definitely see it picking up, but I'm also seeing homes starting to expire too. Homes that, people are like, there's no inventory. Well, there is inventory, it's just not good inventory. And so seeing it expire has been something interesting to also start to watch to happen over the June and now at the early part of July.
Well, to bring some humor to the situation, the things that we've changed and probably the gravity that our inspectors have endured was the actual going in and inspecting and touching and being in this COVID environment. So I think we'll be wearing more latex gloves.
As long as they're white.
Yeah, I was gonna say, at least you're on brand. I mean, that's two birds,
Perfect,
one stone right there. Sorry, that's my comment for the session.
But it was very daunting to the first couple of months to go into homes and do this, and because it was so contact driven with everything, and you're touching their toilet and all sorts of weird things. So it's really relieving to know that it's going the other direction and that we're not walking into a potential bomb of disease and germs and stuff, but it certainly woke us up,
that first couple weeks after Illinois' lockdown, when we found out that real estate agents were going to be considered, what was that word?
Non-essential.
Essential.
Yeah, because we had heard through clients around the country that in Michigan agents weren't, that in California they even can't shut down title companies, so they canceled closings. And of course, I don't know about other people, but you had that panic moment, like, holy crap, we're not going to be able to work at all. My team stayed busy even after those first 2 weeks. And so some of that first week going out and like driving to a listing appointment and being like the only car on I-55 was like something out of a movie. It was so strange. And then going to the house and everyone's masked up and everything. It was like, what is going on here? It was crazy when you think about it.
Let me interject, Paul. I'm glad you brought that up, because these sessions were born because of that. When I found out our spring event last year was going to be rescheduled or canceled, it was May 8th of 2020. It was actually at a bowling alley. Yeah, right. One of the most sanitary places to do an event. And I'm like, man, this whole COVID thing could be a thing. I mean, nobody knew. It's easy to look back on it now, but I'm like, I got to figure out a way to sort of keep people plugged in and interacting, because like isolation is just not good. Yes, I know there's introverts and extroverts, and you can, do personality tests, and there's a lot of research that shows, but no matter what personality you are, Like, I think people get in their own heads when they are isolated. And let's just get, Zoom was like, oh my God, this Zoom thing looks pretty cool. Let's just get a bunch of realtors on a Zoom, a few partners, and talk shop and like figure this thing out. And not that, the solve was the end all be all, but I really felt that it helped and just sort of was a light. And so when you asked earlier, like, what are some things that you're gonna, keep in the pandemic? I'm like, if it's not obvious, we'll probably still do the jam sessions. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it's easy to forget a year ago at this point, like maybe 14, 15 months ago, like where we came from. People were in panic mode. It's easy just to forget. So we persevered, we came through it. I just want to say, like, for everybody on this and just everybody, who the publication goes to, I'm extremely blessed to just be in community and connection with problem solvers. It's super cool. Realtors who sell a lot of real estate, and partners who, groom and build relationships with realtors. You're used to getting the ball to the end zone. We're used to getting from A to Z. Yes, we had to take a long route to it, but it really fueled me in the sense of like, the sky is not falling. Andy, you're not going to figure this out yourself. You need to do this in community. So it just really felt, I don't know. I'm thinking about, like, on our app, I'm actually thinking about maybe like releasing the first couple of jam sessions, just so people can just be reminded of, hey, this is where we came from. It sucked 14 months ago, but we persevered. And I think it's a great talking, just great conversation, because we're so quick to forget. Real estate could have been deemed non-essential in Illinois. So Paul, thanks for bringing that up.
I think it made us more tenacity and more
Yeah.
able to accept change and change and change and change again. It brought us through a whole loop of changing our perceptions. So there's a lot of good that actually came out.
Well,
Yeah, I think it also kind of really made the right people stand out more. A lot of people just kind of, there's a pandemic, I'm done. Whereas I'm sure everybody on this call probably went harder, like we did. So, I think it's pretty cool how it changed things.
I found it interesting, back to something Lori said a while ago, when homeowners were, oh, the market's so hot, I can sell my house myself. I can put a, for sale by owner sign out. And I found that people that would never try that were trying that. We had friends that would have never tried that prior to this and tried it. And they tried it for a couple weeks, and they had like people wanting to come in all the time. And they were managing that process and they were hating it. And I said, you're going to be able to get an offer, but then you're going to be completely lost once you have that offer. Like, there's so much that goes into it besides just having somebody say, I'll pay you this. Like, just hire an agent. So they actually even almost had their buyer and then got an agent. I'm like, because you just don't want to deal with the back end piece yourself. Like, use somebody that knows what they're doing,
or just navigating through 48 showings in 24 hours and 10 offers. Like, how do you do, like, it was, when it first started, it was difficult for me. I started in this business when the recession hit in 2007, 2008. The house was on the market for 9 months. You finally got a offer and then had to negotiate it up. So I wasn't around in the first housing bubble in the early 2000s when I heard about agents writing offers on the hoods of cars and stuff. I wanted to get a question in, and I thought maybe Jim might be the best to answer this. I'm sure a lot of people have seen a lot of people leaving Illinois, and we have a nice part of a nice referral network to send people to other agents, other parts of the country. And then our clients have a more intimate relationship with us because we've sold them something maybe once or twice, and they've worked, they just know us better. We already closed their deal, and sometimes they don't trust the agent they have, say in North Carolina or whatever. And so they'll ask for our advice. I got to be very careful and explain to them, look, there's different laws there. I'm not a licensed agent there. I'm not an attorney. I'll talk this out with you almost like as a friend. But Jim, what I notice sometimes is now I've been able to get my hands on contracts that other states use. other terminology they used. It's either South or North Carolina. They don't call it earnest money. I think it's called good faith money or something. What I loved about it is said, like, let's use the earnest money. It would say in the contract, earnest money is $5,000. If the buyer chooses to cancel this deal due to inspection issues, 4,000 of the 5,000 is refunded back to the buyer, and the seller keeps 1,000. When I saw that, and you would write it in, right? If you're the agent, it's part of the offer. Like, I suppose a really good offer would be $5,000 earnest money, and if we back out because of inspection, 5,000 goes to the buyer. But I just thought it was brilliant because it avoids people killing a deal because the brick has moss on it and needs to be power washed by a professional, which I really want to know where that attorney finds professional power washers. I didn't know they existed, but apparently they do. So I thought it would be so cool if we had that. If we said to the seller, look, go get in a bed with these people, because even if they back out, you're going to at least get $1,000, so it's worth having it off the market for 5 days. Does Illinois, does the board, do they ever look at stuff like that to change our contracts rather than just change the wording, but actually do something really beneficial for the seller?
So
before we jump in, because I will forget, let's get a screenshot with everybody smiling. And then Paul, we're diving into that. Jim, obviously you can take the reins, but then everybody can chime in. So you're ready? Do not be like my children and smile for 2 seconds and then stop. Okay. When you see me stop smiling, then you stop smiling. Okay. Ready? Show some white teeth. 1, 2, 3. All right. I think we actually nailed that. Hold on. First try.
It was
We're
hard to
good.
watch you smile and make sure we were still smiling.
It is. You just gotta look at the camera and trust me. I think let's do one more for good measure. And then Jim, yeah, I mean, that's a great question, Paul. I just want to, rather than, I get caught up in my stuff. So here.
So really cynical answer coming. So I will say a few things. One, different states have different sort of real estate laws. For example, the references you made in North Carolina, South Carolina. In South Carolina, there are only certain items you could possibly even ask for after an inspection.
I noticed that too, yes, when I read it.
I look at Illinois, Jina mentioned this, we've joked about it, and like, there's no such thing as is in Illinois. It's a joke, so we all think we get so excited when we put a deal under contract and say, whoo, I've got it as is. And I mean, at the height in February, March, April, it probably carried some weight, but generally speaking, it's meaningless here. Whereas in other states, it's nothing could be more true, than how you transact. It's very strict, exactly like you kind of laid out, Paul. I don't think it's going to happen here because oftentimes those are escrow states, whereas we're an attorney state. Not to go off on a tangent, but a fascinating conversation is if you've ever transacted in an escrow state versus Illinois, how easy it is to do a deal, how involved the agent is, having no attorneys. I shouldn't really say this, but I didn't do it as a licensee, but I basically facilitated a deal for a family member in Hawaii. And it was the easiest thing I've ever done in my life, because all you do is call the title company. They literally tell you that you can present a napkin as the contract. That's perfectly acceptable. All I need is buyer name, seller name, the agreed to price. That's it. And so they just said to me, no need for a contract. And they facilitate all of the paperwork, all of the documentation, and you actually close, but you don't get your keys until 2 or 3 days later, which is very different than here. And there's certain criteria that you can ask for and you can't ask for in the inspection. So really doing those deals, I always say everybody has to get paid in our stack and in our tier here in Illinois, and so we work a lot of our deals because everybody wants, their piece of the pie. It works how it works here, right? But I'm just saying that escrow states versus attorney states is a very, very different real estate transaction. So I would love to see it. I just don't think it's going to happen here. I think we are the way we are. That's my sense. But yeah, my parents sold a house in South Carolina, and they said exactly what you said, Paul. it was the greatest thing ever, because it was just laid right out in the contract of what could be negotiated after inspection, what couldn't, and what the recourse was and what it wasn't. It was fabulous, super easy.
You know what's so interesting, Jim and Paul, you guys look at other states, but Mike Boerman says, cue the banjo. I'm from Southern Illinois originally. And when you look at transactions down there, they are completely different. My family goes and they buy the house next door, at the farm next door. They don't do a home inspection. They don't do anything. They buy it as is. It's a gentleman's agreement. They go to the bank. It's completely different than how transactions are handled up here. They are like mind blown by what I do for a living and what Mike does for a living. All of us on this call, actually. I mean, there are a few realtors down there, but they're few and far between. It's just even in our own state, if you go, you know, my husband says south of 80, but I'll say south of Springfield. It really changes how the transaction happens. It's interesting in rural communities.
Well, I think that 7.0 contract tried to bring the home inspection down to a scalable place in limiting it to the structural and mechanical and health and safety. But then you've got competition, and competition brings in all the other accoutrements of inspection, you know, so it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Whereas other states do home inspections totally different. Texas is like, you have a standard report. It's 3 pages, boom. That's what you do on an inspection. They give a key to the inspector. No one shows up. And if they do, it's at the end, and it's like boom, 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 you know, so.
Yeah.
And of course, we'd love to do pre-listing inspections. Now, wouldn't that make the deal better? That's another conversation. But it's unaccepted here, the pre-listing inspection. It's like a stepchild, like, huh? What? No way. I don't want to disclose any problems. I want to lie instead, you know?
I don't know if we have time for this one, but obviously the market the last couple of years has been really good. I've actually had quite a few friends reach out to me and say that they're interested in getting into real estate. What have you guys seen in terms of, I know we have a couple managing brokers on the call. What have you seen in terms of new agents coming in and how that's kind of affected our market?
Yeah, that's finally slowed. It was a little bit scary for me. I always look at that as a barometer of where I think the market is, where I think it's going, and when I think it's gonna peak and start to really drop. And so I would say that, probably no exaggeration, I was getting, I would say 3 a week for probably 6 months new to the business. And I would say in the last 60 days, I'm getting 2 a month now. So yeah, anytime it's perceived to be easy, everybody jumps in, you know? Or anytime someone says, oh my gosh, my cousin's gonna transact, I have to go get my license, you know, those are the couple of variables. I mean, you know, there's room for everybody, but the data shows that something like National Association of Realtors, something like 86 or 88% of all new licensees will be out of the business inside of 3 years. So, you know, you have to be really thoughtful about how you approach that. But yeah, it's a great question. And I sure saw a spike, but it's definitely slowed in the last couple months.
Yeah, and those new agents are, I sure hope they're getting the proper training, that it's not always going to be list on Thursday, present multiple offers on Sunday, that it might be list on Thursday and get an offer 9 months later, and negotiate it with tears in your seller's eyes, because I remember those days.
And I think, like you said, Paul, I think that's where the salt, the weight of somebody's that's been in the business for, you know, multiple years, that has seen the ebbs and flows of the market and isn't just coming in when, you know, when harvest is here. You know, we've seen the ebbs and flows and being prepared for that and knowing how to properly market a home in any market, because, you know, as we saw many times, the market can change very quickly. So being able to adjust and know how to respond to those changes.
And we all, everyone on this call, you've got to mentally prepare yourself if it does change, and it perhaps getting back to how we started this. It might not, this might be a little seasonal shift. And I think that was an excellent point about just a lot of people on vacation or just doing stuff other than focusing on their house for a little while here. And then they're going to focus on getting their kids back in school. Then they'll focus on school. And then we might get back to normal come mid-September or so.
Well, final thoughts. I mean, we've got what, 4 minutes. I want to be sensitive to everybody's time because let's face it, you guys are realtors. You guys have money to make. You guys have calls to make, and prospecting to do, and all that fun stuff. So I mean, we might not get to everybody, but I would like to sort of wrap up with what are I don't want to use the word predictions, but what are some activities between now and say when school starts? Like, what are your your top two main focuses, your one thing, if you will, or maybe your two thing, if that's a thing. If not, I just made it up right now, that you're going to focus on over the next, what are we in, middle of July, like next 6 to 7 weeks. And this is for partners and realtors, and anybody can go to how it applies to your business and your activity.
I'm doing things as I've always done, is just doing the best I can with staying in contact with my past clients, people I know, just seeing if they have any real estate questions, if there's something I can do to help them, knowing I'm there. I'm not too busy to help them even in this crazy market. So just always trying to just stay top of mind so they look to a professional versus somebody who is just jumping into the business to see how this real estate business looks.
So
I'm gonna look at the fact that I feel like I've been going nonstop for over 18 months here. And if there is a bit of a slowdown, I won't panic. I will relax for a change.
Good for you. Good for you, Paul. Right? Less is more. I love it.
I'm right there with you, Paul. It's okay if we slow down for a couple weeks or something.
Yeah.
I'm with Lori. I'm going to keep doing what I've always been doing and try to convince my husband that we should get a dog.
Get a dog.
There's the
You
key to
don't want to?
success, right? Animals, key to success, right there.
Yeah.
Done.
Well, I don't know about this new normal, but I think the new normal is change. And so it's always going to be adapting and being that chameleon that can fit in any situation. And, having done inspections 30 years, I used to be able to predict my numbers. It was a perfect curve. You knew when it was going to slow down, you knew when it was going to pick up, and it was going to stay there. And now it's like, it hasn't happened that way for years and years and years and years. So it's just adaptation and always changing. I mean, we started inspections when there really wasn't computers, It's like we did things by paper. Sometimes that's better, maybe.
I always think in like 20 years, like when my kids grow up, would be like, oh my gosh, you guys use the MLS. You guys look stuff up online because there'll be something like way cooler out in the year 2045. Does anybody ever think like that? Maybe it's just me. Well, we got time for maybe one more, maybe two, if it's quick. Jim, Jennifer, any sort of last minute tidbits of activity for the next 6-7 weeks or so?
Yeah, so we're gonna keep doing what we're doing in terms of providing excellent service. We're gonna take a week off at the end of July and go on vacation as a family because we haven't done that in a long time. And then we're gonna regroup and have a friend cover for us while we're gone, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna hit it hard.
Cool.
I'm managing, practicing what I preach, and I'm actually transacting personally in this market. So I've got that is going to occupy the balance of my summer. So it's been interesting to communicate what we communicate as agents, as managers, and then to live it. It's always good to have firsthand experience.
Yeah.
Mike and I always say that we should all be required, anybody in a real estate related industry should be required to sell their home, buy a new home, and move like once every couple of years, just to remind us what they're all going through.
Well, remind people of the value of the service too. I mean, that's
true.
why you pay people to do it. It's like I could build a car, and the raw materials wouldn't cost me that much, but I'll buy one from Honda. Sorry, that's how I roll. I'm not buying a Lexus or nothing. 4 kids. My Costco bill's like 10 grand a month, so it all goes to Costco. So we will, and I'm going to stop the live stream right now. Thanks for tuning in. Hold on, 3, 2, 1. All right, no longer live anymore. Hey, everybody, I'm going to let you get to your day. We appreciate it. Thanks for carving the hour out and just, scratching each other's backs. If you want to get on another one of these, maybe next month or even in the fall, let me know. We can always shuffle the deck, different realtors, different partners on, but I always enjoy these and just, see where the conversation goes. So have a blessed, productive rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you for putting it together.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks,
Peace.
Andy.
Everybody.
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye.
Adios.